Hey everyone! You're listening to your girl Essa, and today we're going to box out a question. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already done so, and make sure you hit that bell icon so you can be notified every time I drop a new video. So today we're going to talk about how to get over your pain after a breakup. I'm sure I'm not the only one who's been through a tough breakup. In fact, I've been through several in my life, and all of them were very painful experiences. Whether it was the first one, the second one, the third one, I don't ever think that they get easier. And I don't think you ever prepare yourself for one either. But the one thing that they all have in common is that every time they happen, we always hope that they're going to be our last breakup. Every time I got into a relationship, I always thought this was it for me. I don't think anybody ever gets into a relationship and feels prepared for a breakup. And to be fair, many people avoid relationships precisely because they want to avoid the prolonged pain and suffering that you have to go through in order to get over your ex or whatever type of situation you have found yourself in. But in this video, we're not going to deal with the anger, the sadness of the breakup. We're going to talk about the ways in which we can make that process as easy as possible for ourselves. Whether the breakup was your fault or not, as long as it hurts, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about the pain and what to do. Now, obviously, I'm not a doctor, know-it-all. I can't fix every problem and have a solution for every problem out there. I can only share my experience with you and give you ideas about how to deal with your pain based off my own experiences, how I felt, what helped me, and what is keeping me going. The biggest piece of advice that everybody gives you, and actually it is a universal truth, is that you have to be busy. The reason for the advice is that you take yourself away from the difficult and painful situation, you take yourself out of your mind and place yourself somewhere where potentially you're not using your mind as much, you're not into overdrive, you're not wondering constantly about your ex, what he or she is doing, and you just live life. So that's really the whole purpose behind the advice, to be busy. The things that I want to talk about is how I kept busy and what you can try and do in order to equally stay busy and hopefully move on from the pain more quickly than you would if you lament over the situation. So my ex prior to the last breakup, it might actually be the ex before that. Anyway, so in that situation, I spent an entire year feeling sorry for myself and not moving on. And when I say not moving on, I functioned. I went to work, I saw friends, I did the minimal amount of things that I needed to do in order to get through each day. And unfortunately, this really prolonged my pain. Eventually, I began being busy with some of the things which I will share in this video. And eventually, at the end of that year, I actually began to feel mentally stable in many ways. And when I say mentally stable, I don't want to talk about levels of crazy. I mean, I have been crazy in the past. But what I mean is my mental stability, something that I lost in the aftermath of what happened, returned after a very, very long period of time. So my recommendation based off my own experience is that you mustn't leave yourself to your own mind's devices. You mustn't leave yourself in a position where your mind is free to lock itself and zone in and focus in only on one problem. What you're looking to do is to take yourself out of that. And the way that you are going to do that is by following the advice that's top of everybody's list, which is to go to the gym, fitness. The key is that, first of all, you need to establish a new routine in your life. But in order to do that, what you want to do is you need to find an activity that you truly enjoy. It's no good jumping on a cross trainer and pushing away for the next 45 minutes while you feel bored out of your skull, while you can think of nothing other than how you're going to run home, have a shower, slouch on a sofa and consume a humongous meal because you now feel justified to do so after your gym session. And then the following day, you may not even want to return to the gym because it's such a mind-numbingly boring activity. So what we're looking for here is you're looking to find something that you really enjoy. I personally really enjoy playing basketball. I've always done so. I also enjoy boxing, and I have done a number of dance classes as well. And also, I don't underestimate unconventional activities such as pole dancing, for instance, belly dancing. I suppose that falls under the dance classes. But these are activities which are not the typical thing that you'll think of when fitness springs to mind. So I would recommend that you think long and hard about what you might enjoy as a woman particularly. I think for men, naturally, it's easier to be excited about getting fit because men tend to have grown up around sports and sporting activities. They tend to have had more competition around them growing up, and so it's a bit of a natural thing for them to jump into that. As a naturally sporty woman, I've been surrounded by competition my whole life. I've pushed myself hard as well, and I really enjoy sports, particularly team sports and competitive sports. And so I don't find it difficult, but just because I don't doesn't mean that every other woman out there feels the same. In fact, I know that most ladies don't actually enjoy sports the way that I do. And so my encouragement towards those kind of ladies would be to actually explore some of these things and see if they can discover something that they really enjoy. If basketball appears too intimidating, then perhaps netball might be a good alternative. You actually will meet like-minded females there who potentially may turn out to be great friends for the future. If you stick with the commitment long enough and you're around them, you'll find that most clubs have a very, very social and empowering element to them. They're quite cohesive. People go out, people enjoy each other's company, and because you have a shared interest, it brings you together. You always have something to talk about. So I really encourage the ladies out there, but of course naturally the men too, to go out and take up a sporting activity. Pick a sport that you might enjoy, and if you're not sure, give it a try. You would be really, really surprised by the results. So my recommendation would be something like basketball or netball. Volleyball is really great as well for this kind of thing. Potentially rounders if you're into that kind of sport as well. And if not, pole dancing, belly dancing, any other dance class would be amazing for you. I would really recommend it. And once you find something that you really enjoy and you are no longer bored, you will find that you will go. And as long as you go, your life will begin changing. Your routine will change. And so your thoughts about your ex will begin to slowly diminish. I mean, it will take time. I'm not suggesting that this is a quick process. It will take a good couple of months, but the results will certainly be speedier than if you don't. So second on my list of suggestions would be, it's kind of connected with what I was just talking about, but I would recommend that you learn to do something new. And so my suggestion for that was a new sport or a new dance, perhaps a new art, or maybe even a language. You should set some kind of resolution for yourself, and definitely don't wait until New Year's for that, so that you can then have the motivation to do this new thing. That's why the sports are so great, because there's actually other people involved. A dance, amazing, really, for confidence boosting, meeting people as well. Some of the suggestions that I would give you for that would be to try an African dance called Kizomba, which is amazing. Of course, there are the salsa, lambada, bachata, the usual suspects really in that field, and every one of them is really, really enjoyable. In terms of languages, Spanish, Portuguese, French, whatever takes your fancy. Maybe you're into Mandarin, maybe you fancy learning Urdu, then, go ahead. Take the plunge and do that new something. If you want to learn to draw, maybe you want to take a writing class, for example, or join a book club. I think any one of these activities will put you together with people who have this interest in common with you, and it will force you to be sociable and friendly, and it will push you out of your comfort zone and remind you that the world actually keeps spinning. It carries on, and you will too carry on as long as you keep it pushing. So the next suggestion, keeping it in the spirit of new things, is to conquer a fear. So it depends on the things that you're, of course, afraid of. I can share with you what I did. So I've never been able to swim. It comes from, a few drowning or near drowning experiences in my life. I had never learned to swim, and as part of what happened, I decided that it's been long enough, it's been too many years where I've not been able to swim, and it's the year to do it. And so I actually began doing that. The thing that I didn't do is I didn't go for the traditional method of, getting in the water, getting an instructor and following instructions, because believe me, I had done that a million times in my life, and none of these times were successful, not one. What I actually thought about was my issue with swimming was not that I hated water, but of course I was naturally afraid of it, and therefore it was a confidence issue. Now that may seem like such a simple deduction to make, but you must accept that generally an instructor cannot help you with your confidence. The instructor will help you with your technique. And once you've got technique, supposedly your confidence ought to grow. Well, in my experience, that never happened, because I actually was able to perform the movement, and yet somehow I would find myself sinking because I stiffened like a piece of metal and I would sink to the bottom instantly. In order to take a new approach this time around, I decided to go into the pool and enjoy myself. And that's what I did. My pool is 2 meters at the deep end, so I would recommend that you don't go for a pool which is 5 meters deep, those professional depth, diving depth type of pools. So I went there and I would push myself. I would swim a very short distance from the deep end, let's say, towards the shallow. He gave me enough of a push and I would play in the water. I literally was attempting to stay afloat and enjoy the presence of people around me doing their thing, and at the same time not be afraid by their presence, not be scared that maybe somebody would pass by me and touch me. None of that. Instead, I simply enjoyed being in the water, floating, paddling around, until I began to relax in the water. And once I relaxed in the water, I found that I was able to control my breathing, and I was able to perform the techniques which I already knew. So I can honestly say now that I'm getting better. I'm nowhere near my best, which I'm hoping to achieve at some point soon. I don't want to set a time frame on it, but it's something that I've kept up with for quite some time now, and it's been a really truly wonderful experience. I ended up meeting other people who couldn't swim and were learning. I ended up talking to ladies and guys in the pool, and people shared with me their fears, their worries, and their reasons for being there, and actually made some friends. And so this was really a good way to actually strike, 2 birds with 1 stone. Conquer the fear, learn something, and actually meet people. So actually, what was that, 3? Maybe I can't count. My next suggestion would be to consider a career change or a new job, because the searching for a job is like a job within itself, really. It is so time consuming. It requires a lot of effort and thought, and actually really takes you away from thinking about anything and everything else. You really concentrate on what you are doing, and you can spend absolute hours doing that. So that was one of the things that I did. I made sure I got myself a new job. It took me ages to do that, because I was aiming quite high and I was making long applications, and so each application was taking me a while. And obviously, you go through the process, and actually, because you're in a new job and you're in a new environment, and you cannot be complacent nor relaxed, and you are not free to complain about your situation, this really takes you out of your norm, of your comfort zone, and it forces you to behave more positively. And so, as they say, fake it till you make it. Eventually you realize that you actually don't need to complain daily, that you're not miserable all the time about what happened to you, and that actually the positivity in the new workplace can really work wonders for you. hopefully the job comes with some extra money, maybe a higher position, I don't know, some kind of perks that you're interested in. So that would be a bonus too. And since we're in with the new and out with the old, one of the biggest suggestions that I have, which are quite easy to do, is to get on and clear out your house. And so I'm talking do a proper clear out. We ladies always have mountains of stuff. I know guys have them too, but guys are quite ruthless when it comes to clothes they don't wear. Get in the wardrobes, get in the chests of drawers, get in the spare room, get under the bed, or wherever you hide your secret stashes of stuff, and clear lots of things out. It will clear your mind. It will make you feel better. It will create space. It will just make you feel happier. It's a weird feeling, and I think that's why my male friends generally always feel so happy and carefree in their house, never burdened by anything, because they don't have any stuff, you know. All they have is a TV, a PlayStation, maybe an exercise bench, and, you know, a couple of bags full of clothes. That's about all they have. And so they generally appear a whole lot happier than us hoarder women, you know, who are holed up in our little flats and houses surrounded by piles and mountains of stuff that we may or may not ever wear. So a clear out is definitely a big suggestion. Go ahead and do it. It will make you feel happier. I did that myself, and I can tell you I'm continuing. I've decided to try and get as close to being as ruthless as a man as I humanly can. I appreciate that it's probably not quite possible, but I am trying. And since you're doing a clear out, you're not just going to throw away all those clothes. What you're going to do is you're going to separate them into 3 piles. You're going to create a pile which is for charity. You're going to create a pile which is to sell. And then you're going to create the pile that is going to be given away to friends and family. You can have your 4th pile as the rubbish, but generally lots of the stuff that we women keep in our wardrobes is actually wearable. It's actually good. That's why we keep it, because it's not completely tattered and torn up like how men end up with their t-shirts. They wear their t-shirts to death because they've got about 5 of them in total, and then once that t-shirt is all worn or yellow under the armpits or whatever, then that t-shirt goes. Whereas we women wear something only once every 3 months, and then of course it's actually in really good condition. So for that reason, I don't advocate throwing away clothes. I say separate it, like I said, into the 3 piles: the giveaway pile, the charity pile, and then the pile to sell. So the pile to sell is what's going to lead us to our next suggestion. I have a moderately successful eBay business selling all my old stuff. I do it because it makes me feel good. It makes me feel like I'm not throwing away something which is usable. It makes me feel like I'm benefiting, or at least not losing all of the money that I spent on that thing. I've had some use out of it, and now I can recoup a little bit of money for it. And so that's one thing that I do, and I really recommend. Set up a small, tiny eBay store. You don't have to really go into anything fancy. And these days you can just list everything using your mobile phone. It's amazing. It's incredibly quick. And so that's what you need to do. You need to jump on that and start selling. You'll get some extra money. I remember one year I must have sold a good couple of £1,000 worth of old clothes, and I went on holiday with that money. And in fact, I repeated the whole thing the following year and went on another holiday. So I really, really recommend it. And also, speaking of holidays, that's my next suggestion. So you are obviously going to need to book a holiday. Now that you are in a difficult place in your life, you've been struggling long enough mentally, you have had support from friends, but you just really need to let your hair down and do something which is truly enjoyable and something that you've probably very much deserved by now. So what you're going to do is you're going to book a holiday with one of your friends or 2 of your friends, however many, or even if it must be, you can book it on your own. It's probably best that, unless you're really into your own company, that you try and find somebody to go with. But of course, you know, to each his own. People do have different preferences. Now, the key with the holiday here is not just to go on holiday, but you are going to think of somewhere where you really actually want to go. And you are going to research the heck out of that place. We're talking that you're going to picture that you're never going back there again, that you're never going to get another opportunity, and you must do it right the first time. So that's why you are going to make sure that you do all the research about where to go, what to do, and when to do it. And you are going to share that with your friends or travel companions, and you're going to experience the place from a very different point of view, the point of view of the proper traveler, not just the tourist, but someone who really travels the place. And I truly think that it changes your perspective on how a holiday can be transformed into an experience of a lifetime. And all the looking, I guarantee you, will have you exhausted. It will have you busy because it takes hours and hours of your time. It will have you excited, and it will have your mind occupied with the right stuff and not the wrong stuff. Now, if you don't actually have anybody to travel with, which is quite a common complaint, people don't necessarily have lots of spare cash to go away at a time when you want to go, and also people don't always share your view about what a great holiday is. My idea of a great holiday may not be yours. So for that reason, I have another suggestion for you, which I've actually seriously considered for the future. You can advertise on Gumtree for holiday partners, and it's actually a real thing. People do meet up and buddy up for holidays, and actually can be a fantastic experience, because unlike holidaying with a friend, you are not risking your friendship by spending lots of time, particularly if you're going to go away for about 2 weeks or more, maybe if you're lucky, that you don't have to risk your friendship by being bored or too into each other's pockets or whatever. So if you are someone who is prepared to go out of your comfort zone, then you can actually do that. And I know it sounds kind of crazy, but I do know people who have done it, and it really is a good thing. And it's a good thing because the person is virtually a stranger. Obviously, you will spend some time before you actually travel, but the person is a stranger in the sense that you don't owe them anything. You don't feel obliged to do the stuff that they do. You don't feel obliged to pander to their needs the way that you would with friends or family. You will feel like you're in a bit of a business transaction in a way, a pleasant one, nonetheless, because scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. This is what I want to do. What is it that you want to do so that we can trade for this? And so actually it can be really a good experience. In terms of a similar situation which people accept more readily is having a flatmate. So, you know, if you go to live in a shared accommodation, for example, with someone, you learn to share things like chores and the space and the common areas. You learn to do this because you have to. You're there for a reason. You're paying your money and you're not trying to get yourself stressed out at home. And that's a very acceptable situation. A lot of people find it difficult to live with friends or family because they feel under pressure to say yes when they really want to say no to certain things. They worry about finances, and they worry about the relationship or the friendship breaking down because of minor things. That's one thing that you don't have to worry about when you have a travel buddy. They're very much like a flatmate, and you actually can end up with some amazing friends as a result of this. After all, traveling is a really, really bonding experience. You will spend a lot of time with that person, and you may find that they are amazing. And so if by now you haven't had enough of things to do because there's a whole million in the basket, which I've just kind of handed to you, the last one that I have is a little bit out there, but I swear by it. It has really worked wonders for me, and that is decorating. Totally underrated activity, really, really rewarding, really pleasant and therapeutic on the soul. I decorated my entire house after a breakup because I felt that I was going out of my mind, particularly when you live with someone and you're no longer living with them and you feel like you want to leave the house that you lived in because it's just full of memories. Well, the clear out together with being busy selling some of the stuff or giving it to charity or organizing a car boot sale or anything like that. Actually decorating is a very powerful combination. You will restore your inner peace and your comfort about being at home because the place will transform. I mean, obviously not everyone is good at DIY, but literally everyone and anyone can paint. And it may not be the best job, but painting is really expensive if you get a professional to do it. And actually, most times, their job isn't that much better than yours. It is better, but, you know, so what? If it's your work, you'll forgive yourself if you've got a few smudges here and there. And actually, if you look online for some great ideas about how to do it, it's really not that difficult. I would give some tips and pointers, but I haven't mastered editing videos just yet, and so I think I'll be a little bit out of my depth there. But I painted my entire house, and I've done little bits and pieces like you know, fitting door fittings and getting new paintings up and putting together furniture and things like that. So I can do some basic stuff, but I'm actually getting better at things. I'm going to try and change my toilet seat. And I know that sounds probably quite funny to someone who, you know, may have been quite adept at things like that, but you know, DIY is something that I'm quite new to. But on the other hand, it gave me a sense of empowerment because you don't have to rely on a man in your life to do these things. It is actually useful for you to have some skills to help yourself along with. I mean, previously, if you asked me a few years ago, I would have said, oh, well, I make money, you know, I don't need to do it because I could just pay someone to do it. But not anymore. To me, I don't want to waste money. I'd rather spend the money traveling, on experiences with friends and family, and sharing it with the people that I love, rather than wasting it on nonsense. And, you know, getting a builder in to change your toilet seat is unacceptable to me these days. But the key to the activity, like I said, is that it really clears your mind when you begin painting and you're covered in the paint and you don't care about how you look, and you've got the music or your favorite TV show playing, and you're creating something which is pretty and pleasant, and when you see the end results, they're totally worth it. When you do things like that for yourself with your time, you will find your inner peace returning. I actually really wish that I had come up with some of these ideas, you know, in the previous years when I'd gone through something like this. And so this was my motivator for getting it out there, so that maybe somebody else can benefit from the pain that I went through and the ideas which I came up with in order to change and turn things around in the process, in the time when I actually wasn't ready to be dating. I wasn't ready to worry about who I was going to be with, etc. For me, the key thing was to return my inner peace and for my home to be a wonderful place of comfort and a sanctuary in my life, which it had lost after the breakup. I hope that this will help you. I really do. And perhaps if you have some suggestions about what we could add to this kind of topic, then maybe you can post them in the comments below. I would love to hear from you. I'd love to hear your experiences, how you coped with things, or if you're still going through something, I'd love to hear from you as well, men and women. You know, we all go through difficulties in our life, and actually a breakup is one of the most difficult things to go through. Well, that's it from me for today. I really hope that you've enjoyed this video. Please click the like button, please subscribe and hit the bell icon as well so that you can be notified, and come back again for more videos. Until next time, it's your girl Lessa, and I'm out. Peace.